Before everything began to unravel, Bob had been living a life that seemed perfect from the outside. He had a stable career, a loving family, and the comfort that came with being settled in his mid-30s. Each day followed a predictable pattern: work, home, family time, and the occasional date night with his wife, Sharon. It felt like they had found the formula for balancing responsibilities and squeezing out moments of happiness. At least that's what he believed. There were no glaring signs, no indicators that something was festering beneath the surface, something that could shatter the foundation he thought was rock solid. He should have known better. Bob and Sharon were not immune to the slow erosion that creeps into long-term relationships when neglect takes root. Bob had thrown himself into a massive project at work, one that promised to elevate his career and ensure their financial security for years to come. Late nights at the office and early mornings became routine, and he didn't give much thought to the growing distance between him and his wife. In his mind, this was just a temporary phase, a necessary sacrifice that would pay off in the end. What he failed to see was how the little things, missed dinners, forgotten conversations, and unspoken loneliness, were quietly eroding the bond they had built over the years. It was Thursday, and Bob found himself sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a bottle of Miller Lite. He had only grabbed a six-pack, not enough to get drunk, just something to help him steady his nerves. He knew he needed a clear head for the conversation that was fast approaching. Upstairs, he could hear the sound of Sharon's music fading, a sign that she was nearly finished getting ready. Normally, Thursday nights were her time with friends, giving Bob the opportunity to stay late at work and finish up his weekly tasks. It had seemed like the perfect arrangement. Bob got a handle on his workload, Sharon had time to relax with her friends, and his parents looked after their daughter, Casey. But as he sat there now, the very routine that once seemed ideal had become a veil, hiding the deeper cracks in his marriage. His mind drifted back to his lunch with Vicky earlier that week, a conversation that had upended his entire reality. Tuesday. I need to get out of the office more, Bob thought, or at least see if they would deliver these amazing sandwiches. He had grabbed a table to watch the door and soon saw a familiar face walk in. She looked around and he waved. She spotted him and walked over. At 31, Vicky was the oldest of Sharon's friends and his favorite. She was also the only one married. She had a way of putting everyone at ease without being a pushover. He had to admit she was attractive too. Dark, wavy hair, fair skin, and great legs. No noticeable curves, but her face was stunning. Her husband Ron adored her, and she still got plenty of male attention. As she sat down across from him, he couldn't help but notice how easy she made everything feel. Thanks for meeting me, Bob. I know work keeps you busy, so I appreciate you taking the time, she said, studying his face. No problem, Vicky, Bob replied. Though, I have to say, I feel a little weird meeting without Sharon. I don't usually have lunch with pretty women who aren't my wife, but you said it was about her, so I'm all ears. Planning a surprise for her birthday next month? Bob wasn't expecting the sadness that crossed Vicky's face when he mentioned Sharon's birthday. What was going on? Bob, I've seen how much you and Sharon care for each other, and that's why I'm coming to you. This might ruin my friendship with her, but if it saves your marriage, I'm okay with that. There's no easy way to say this, but Sharon's been seeing someone for the past 3 months. Bob was stunned. He thought it had to be a joke, and he told Vicky as much. I'm really sorry, Bob, but it's not a joke. About 2 months ago, after you took on this new project, Sharon was in a bad place at work, grumpy and quiet. After a few martinis, she opened up about feeling abandoned. She said she missed you and felt like you two were becoming just another middle-aged couple letting life pass you by. At that point, the waiter came by for Vicky's order. She asked for a Cobb salad and an iced tea with lemon. Bob, still trying to process what he had just heard, was reeling at the thought that Sharon would sneak around after 8 years together. He would have bet his life that Sharon would have told him if she was unhappy. They'd always been honest, even when it was uncomfortable. He looked at Vicky and asked the one question he needed to know the answer to immediately. Has she slept with him? He whispered. Not that I know of, Vicky replied. And I think I'd be able to tell. Your wife's usually pretty open, which is why this behavior is so shocking. But Bob, you should know that every woman I've spoken to has shared similar feelings, kind of like how you guys talk about being tied down. When Sharon mentioned it, we all told her she's amazing, that you should pay more attention to her, and so on. Unfortunately, my sister was there that night, Vicky continued. What does your sister have to do with anything? Bob asked, trying to control his anger. Well, my sister is not the best influence, Vicky said. The waiter, bringing her tea, raised an eyebrow at her comment. Vicky took a sip and explained, My parents were serial cheaters. I don't know who started it, but they were always trying to get back at each other. When I was 17, I asked why they stayed together, and they said it was because they loved each other. This affected my sister and me differently. I saw cheating as a relationship butcher, while my sister thought it was fine as long as you loved each other. I love her, but she's clueless about this stuff. Anyway, Vicky continued, my sister made a comment that if Sharon wasn't getting romance at home, maybe she should look elsewhere. I told her she was wrong, but a few others in the group started talking about how to pick up a guy and keep it secret. At the time, Sharon said she'd never cheat on you, but I think my sister planted a seed. Why do you think that? Bob asked. Now that he wasn't sure Sharon had slept with someone, he was processing more. Because the next week, Luke Jonas and his group showed up at the Red Horse Saloon where we were drinking. Sharon didn't invite him, but she did tell him we'd be there trying line dancing. It was fun, except for Luke. Now Bob had a name. Knowledge is power. Tell me about this Luke guy, Bob growled. Vicky smiled slightly at the tone in Bob's voice. She continued, Luke Jonas is the office flirt. He goes after any woman who shows even the slightest interest, and those who do find themselves on the receiving end of his attention. He doesn't care if they're married or even particularly attractive. He just loves the chase. Your wife shut him down early on, and he didn't push it until recently. Now he's chasing her, and instead of stopping it, she's running along with it. It's an open secret that if Luke gets one more maltreatment complaint, he'll be fired. She could easily end it, but she hasn't. In fact, for the past couple of months, they've been regulars at the cafeteria, sitting together, whispering and giggling. I've tried talking to her about it, but she just gets defensive, insisting they're just friends and that Luke listens to her and understands her problems. I asked if she would act the same way if you were sitting across the table, and she actually blushed. Then she got angry and said something like, you wouldn't even notice. After that, I decided to step back and keep an eye on things. They seemed to cool it off at work, and I thought it was over until 3 weeks ago. At this point, Vicky's lunch arrived, and she began eating, watching Bob for his reaction. Bob took a long sip of his lemonade, but it didn't register at all. He felt hollow inside, and his eyes wouldn't focus. How could Sharon think he wouldn't care about her flirting with another man? He had never been overly jealous because he loved and trusted his wife. But now he wondered if he had been that distant because of this work project. He had always thought the payoff would be worth it, but had he gone too far? He found himself wondering what had happened 3 weeks ago. Did he even want to know? They ate in silence for about 5 minutes while Bob tried to process everything she had said. He was angry, no doubt. There was no good reason for her to be so close to another man, but he could almost see her logic. Maybe if he had been more attentive, none of this would have happened. And other than not telling him about the flirting, she hadn't technically lied to him. Yes, there were lies of omission, but so far, it was something he could work past. He figured they could talk, and if she was honest and agreed to stop seeing Luke, they could move on. So far, it didn't seem like any lasting damage had been done, unless something had happened in the last 3 weeks. So, what happened 3 weeks ago? How bad is it? He asked, feeling like he was finally standing on more solid ground. He could handle this. Vicky looked at him sympathetically. This is where it gets tough, Bob. 3 weeks ago, we all went back to the Red Horse Saloon for line dancing. Luke and his guys showed up, and we were all having a good time. Sharon had been drinking more than usual. Luke kept buying her drinks, and she got pretty tipsy. I went to the bathroom with her, and when she came out of the stall, she was holding her underwear and put them in her purse. I asked her what she was doing, and she said she wanted to feel free. She was drunk, so I just brushed it off and helped her back to our table. I started rounding up Hannah and Gail to take Sharon back to my place so she wouldn't go home too drunk. But then I noticed Sharon and Luke on the dance floor, bumping and grinding. Line dancing was over, and the jukebox was playing. I saw her take her underwear out of her purse and put them in Luke's pocket as the song ended. Unfortunately, so did everyone else. The whole bar erupted with catcalls, and Luke was grinning like a Cheshire cat. Then he kissed her, almost a full-on kiss, and one of his friends was filming it on his phone. I wanted so badly for her to push him away, but she didn't. She went along with it. I'm so sorry, Bob. She stopped as she saw his reaction. Bob's jaw had literally dropped. He needed to get out of there. Excuse me for a second, bathroom. he muttered, standing up and walking away. Inside the bathroom, Bob locked the door and splashed water on his face. He gripped the sink tightly, trying to steady himself. He remembered that night. Sharon usually got home around 11:30, but that night it was closer to 2:30. Vicky had called earlier and said that Sharon was staying at her place because she'd had too much to drink and that they would call her a cab when she sobered up. It had happened before, and Bob had always been grateful that Vicky and the girls were responsible enough to avoid a DUI. He had never been upset about it. In fact, he had always thought getting a little drunk was part of the fun when going out with friends. He never imagined this. He also remembered what happened the night Sharon came home. He recalled being woken up by the warmth of Sharon's lips on his skin. It had caught him off guard, and before he knew it, they were fully involved in passionate sex. "Oh my God, honey, that was amazing," he had told her afterward. "I'm sorry it ended so quickly, but I'll make it up to you." She had giggled and continued, and the night became one of their best. But now those memories were tainted. Was she thinking about someone else during those moments? He splashed more water on his face, trying to rid himself of the thought. Damn, he thought. Was she thinking of him while we were having sex? He dried his face and returned to the table. He noticed the sympathetic look on Vicky's face, but didn't know how to respond. His sandwich remained untouched. "What else do I need to know, Vicky?" he asked, his voice emotionless. "Honestly, Bob, that's pretty much it. The last few girls' nights have been at Hannah's house with wine and lingerie parties. At work, Sharon's been acting cold toward Luke, even though he's still trying to get close to her. I thought it was over, but just yesterday I saw them talking. They got quiet when I came around the corner, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm done. I figured you should know, and maybe you can do something since she's not listening to her friends anymore." The waiter brought the check, and Bob grabbed it before Vicky could reach for it, pulling out his credit card. "I want to see them together in action and maybe put a stop to it," he said. "Sharon told me you guys are going to the Red Horse Saloon this week, so this Thursday when you all go, I'll show up and watch from a distance." He stopped mid-sentence when he saw the horrified look on Vicky's face. "What did I say wrong?" he asked, confused. "Bob, Hannah has a doctor's appointment early Friday morning, and Gail's flying to Florida to visit her brother. If Sharon's going out Thursday, it's not with us," Vicky said gently. She reached across the table and took his hand. "I'm really sorry, honey," she said softly. "I know it's pointless to ask if you're okay, but here's my home number. Call anytime if you need to talk to me or Ron." Her husband was a marriage counselor, so talking to him might be helpful. Bob nodded slowly. "Thank you for telling me, Vicky. I know it wasn't easy, but I think you're doing the right thing being a good friend. I don't know what's going to happen next, but at least now I know what's going on and I can take some action. Thanks again." With that, he stood up, signed the bill, and walked out. Wednesday. Today was a breakthrough on the project Bob had been working on. They had secured pre-manufactured parts from a startup in Harrisburg, shaving 2 months off the timeline, giving them at least a week's cushion even with logistical challenges. A couple more calls, and the project would be completed 2 months ahead of schedule, saving the military millions. The bonus would be as big as Bob had hoped, and having his name on the project would bring recognition. He should have felt as happy as could be. But instead, all he could think about was how much he dreaded going home and confronting what he had to. He had decided to investigate Sharon's potential affair himself. He couldn't access her work email, but figured they wouldn't be foolish enough to use that since it was monitored by HR. He logged into her Yahoo account but found nothing suspicious. She could have created another email, but he wouldn't know unless he checked the home computer. The problem was that Bob wasn't tech-savvy. The idea of setting up surveillance cameras or voice-activated microphones seemed cool in theory, but he already had a plan for confronting her. All he wanted was as much information as possible to figure out whether he should try to save or end his marriage. Sharon had already picked up their daughter, Casey, from his parents and had talked him into picking up Chinese food for dinner. When he texted her asking what she wanted, her response was, "After 10 years together, 8 of those married, you should know what I like, babe." He couldn't resist poking a little. "I just wanted to make sure you're still happy with the way things are," he texted back. Her reply came quickly. "You're right. Get me an extra egg roll." If it weren't for the bombshell Vicky dropped yesterday, Bob would have been thrilled to get home an hour early and just spend time with his wife and daughter. But when he checked the clock, he reminded himself that before the project began, this time would have been considered 2 hours late. He also realized he hadn't been home early on a Friday in months. Add to that the exhaustion and stress he'd been feeling, and it wasn't hard to see why Sharon might have felt neglected. Still, that didn't give her the right to do what she was doing. Walking through the front door, he noticed Sharon reaching up for a wine bottle. He paused to admire her figure. At 31, she was in her prime. Her 5'7" frame had just the right amount of curves to be irresistible. Even through the bulky sweatpants she wore, he could see the outline of her toned figure. Her hair was tied back in a ponytail, and when she turned and flashed him that bright smile, he couldn't help but feel incredibly lucky. Then he remembered why he was upset. "I'm so glad you're home, babe. How's work?" she asked, walking over to kiss him on the lips. "Pretty good. We had a major breakthrough on some supplies, so we're likely finishing at least a month ahead of schedule. Look, I know I've been distant because of this project, and I hate that I can't share the details since it's classified. But I want you to know, you and Casey are the most important things in my life, and I'll do everything I can to protect us," he said, looking into her eyes. Did he just catch a glimpse of regret or guilt in her expression, or was he imagining things? He cursed his inability to read people better. Known as a straight shooter, he spoke plainly and expected others to do the same. His blunt approach sometimes came off as abrasive, but once people got to know him, they appreciated his honesty. It had worked for him for 34 years, but now he was starting to doubt his method. "Oh, honey," she said softly, "we both love you so much and understand. I just wish you could be more involved with the family, but I know this is temporary. It means so much to hear you say that, though." She smiled, and for a moment he thought he saw tears in her eyes. Was she really that good of an actress? "So what does finishing early mean for you?" she asked as she unpacked the food containers. "Well, first off, it means a nice bonus. I don't know the exact amount yet, but it's definitely not chump change. Plus, since this is our first government project, doing it so well should bring in more work for the company. My name being on the lead will get attention from headhunters in the government, and the bosses know this, so I should be able to negotiate some good perks, assuming everything goes smoothly." As he talked, he tried eating his sweet and sour pork with chopsticks, but gave up and grabbed a fork. "Haven't I mentioned all this before?" he asked, his mouth full. "Not that I remember, babe," she replied. "All I recall is you saying you had a big contract you couldn't talk about, but it'd be worth it." "Well, it seems I haven't really talked to you since then," he said, sounding a little sad. "But it looks like I'll have my husband back soon," she said with a bright smile. He looked at her, ready to fish for more information. "So, what bar are you and the girls hitting tomorrow night? Should I swing by after work to make sure everyone gets home safely?" he asked, trying to keep his tone light. "Oh, actually, we're going to the Red Horse Saloon for some line dancing. I think we'll be done before you're off work," she said, focusing on her orange chicken as she spoke. His heart sank a little more. At that moment, Casey finished her egg roll and asked him to read her a story. He cleaned off his plate, then scooped her up and carried her to the living room. For the next hour, he devoted himself to reading story after story until she was fast asleep. He heard snoring from the couch and saw Sharon curled up with a book in her lap. He gently picked up his daughter and took her upstairs to her room, tucking her in and fighting back tears as he thought about what was to come. He wanted Casey to remember the good nights with her parents, not the tough times ahead. Wiping away his tears, he returned downstairs, kissed Sharon gently on the lips, and pulled a blanket over her. Then, determined, he went looking for her phone. He found it plugged in on the nightstand. Swiping to unlock it, he quickly found what he was looking for. Scrolling back through her texts, he saw they began about 3 months ago. "Hey, pretty lady. It was fun seeing you girls out dancing last night," one message read. "Same here. Bob works late on Thursdays, and my in-laws watch the kids so we can have some girl time," she had replied. "Your hubby is a good guy for letting you get out of the house now and then." "Yes, he is great," she responded. For the next few weeks, the texts between them seemed harmless enough. Then, this exchange happened. "Vicky gave me a lecture today about our lunch breaks. I was mad, but she had a point. I don't want people to get the wrong idea about us. It's just harmless talking. We're not doing anything wrong," he replied. She asked if Bob would be okay with how we're acting, and that got me thinking. Maybe we're sending the wrong signals. Plus, I shouldn't be sharing all my problems with another guy. "I'm going to try talking to Bob." "I get it. But if you can't get his attention, you know where to find me. I'll even buy you dinner if needed. Just as friends." Bob didn't remember Sharon trying to talk to him about anything, but it could have been around the time he found out they needed food-grade stainless steel for the project. He had spent days tracking down a supplier, and during that time you could have dropped a bomb on him without him noticing. So far, the text from Sharon seemed innocent, but it was clear to Bob that Luke was playing her. How could she not see it? He scrolled further to the next set of messages. "You need to return those today," said the man. She replied with a smiley face emoji. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I mean," he responded. "My friends are mad at me right now, and I don't blame them. If Bob finds out how I've been acting, he might leave me," she confessed. "So, you don't want me to show him the video?" he asked, including another smiley face emoji. "What video? You can't let anyone at work see that." "Sam was there, and he recorded it on his phone," she explained, worried. "I'll make sure he deletes it, but you'll owe me," he warned with another smiley face. "Fine. I can't lose Bob. Not after last night," she admitted. Curious, he asked, "What happened last night?" "That's none of your business," she snapped. "Was he mad you came home late and drunk?" "LOL," he teased. "Hell no. Let's just say last night was incredible, and it's because Bob and I love each other. Now give me my underwear back and make sure that video gets erased," she demanded. "Damn, that makes me sound so bad. Bob deserves better than me." He reassured her, "No, he's lucky to have you. He wasn't there to keep an eye on you. I don't need anyone watching me. Just be the friend you say you are and handle what I asked, please," she insisted. "Of course, I'll help you." "Then you can buy me dinner," he replied with yet another smiley face. "Just make sure no one sees that video, and I'll do whatever you want," she reluctantly agreed. A few days later, the conversation resumed. "I heard girls' night was canceled. How about that dinner?" he texted, including a smiley face. "Not a good idea. Sorry," she replied. "Oh, come on. Your hubby will be at work and your friends are busy. One night out with a friend and we can talk like we used to. Besides, you owe me," he persisted, adding another smiley face. "Fine. I'll meet you at the Red Horse at 8, she agreed. "Nope," he corrected with a smiley face. "Meet me at the TGIF in the Sheraton Hotel. They have great drink specials and I don't want to yell over a bunch of drunks. I'll be getting a room in case we drink too much." "Fine," she conceded, "but this is just friends having dinner, and I do owe you for making sure that video didn't get out. It's bad enough people at work heard about it." "Don't worry about it. I watched Sam delete the video, and soon someone else will do something scandalous, and no one will remember." "See you at 8, he assured her. And there it was, the probable end of his marriage. How many times do you see your wife agree to meet another man at a hotel restaurant? How could this possibly end well? She couldn't think Zex wasn't on the table. Bob closed out the texts and plugged the phone back into the charger. He undressed and got into bed alone. Sleep didn't come easily. On Thursday, Sharon came downstairs wearing her little black dress, the one she always wore on their dates. She looked stunning. She stopped when she saw him sitting at the table. "Oh, Bob, I didn't expect you home this early," she said, her voice shaky. She looked pale. "We need to talk, Sharon," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "This is probably the most important conversation we'll ever have. Please sit down." She sat, fear spreading across her face. She reached for his hand as she usually would, but he pulled it away. "I know there's no girls' night. I know you've been seeing Luke Jonas behind my back," he started. "Bob, please, let me explain," she began, but he slammed his fist on the table, cutting her off. "Damn it, Sharon, listen to me," he yelled, making her flinch. "You don't get to talk until I'm done." She shrank back, tears filling her eyes. "As I was saying, I know you've been cozying up to Luke at lunch. I know you've been dancing with him at the Red Horse Saloon. I know you took off your underwear and gave them to him after some dirty dancing. I know the only reason you jumped me 3 weeks ago was because you were worked up over him. And I know you plan to go on a date with him tonight at a hotel where your boyfriend has a room ready." He paused, trying to control his anger. "Sharon, you lied to me by omission about Luke. You lied by omission about your dancing without underwear, and you lied about going out with the girls. Honestly, I'm tired, and my trust in you is broken. I'm not even sure I want to work on this marriage anymore. Your actions make me feel like you don't care about this relationship either, so I'm giving you 3 choices." He held up one finger. "Choice 1, you walk out that door and go see your boyfriend. Even if nothing happens tonight, this will end our marriage. 0 chance I'll want to fix it." He raised a second finger. "Choice 2, you and I sit here all night, and you try to convince me to work on saving our marriage. You've got a hard sell because I don't trust a word you say anymore, but you might be able to pull it off. I love you, and we have a child, so you've got about a 50% chance." Then he raised a third finger. "Choice 3, you take me to see your Romeo tonight. You tell him, in front of me, that he is never to contact or speak to you again. Then, you let me talk to him alone for at least 15 minutes. This choice will earn you the most respect and give us the best chance at fixing things. If you haven't slept with or done anything sexual with him, I promise I'll be 100% in to work on this. But if you have, this is the only option that might still give us a shot at repairing things." She looked like she might throw up, staring at him in horror. 0, 50, or 100%, Sharon? What's it going to be? The question hung in the air for almost a minute. She looked as if she was struggling to hold back the urge to vomit before finally meeting his gaze. "Bob, I'm so sorry for everything, and I really need to talk to you. But in answer to your question, do you want to drive or should I?" she asked, her voice small but steady. That was unexpected. He hadn't thought she would choose to confront Luke with him. He figured she'd try to stay and make excuses. This choice earned her some points, but she was still deep in the red. "I'll drive," Bob said shortly, grabbing his keys and following her out to the car. He opened the door for her out of habit, and she almost broke down again. As they pulled out of the driveway, she glanced over at him. "I really messed us up, didn't I?" she asked quietly. "Yes, Sharon, you really did," Bob replied, eyes focused on the road. "What can I do to fix it?" she asked, her voice trembling. He thought for a moment. "First, complete honesty from now on. I shouldn't have to say this, but apparently you think it's okay to leave out important things or lie to me. You'll also have to find a way to make me believe you, because I don't know how you're going to earn my trust back, and I'm not the one who broke it." She nodded, biting her lip as tears welled in her eyes. "And another thing," Bob continued, "if we stay together, Luke is out of your life entirely. You don't talk to him at work. You don't ask how he's doing. If you see him at a bar, you leave. If you can't leave, you call me. No drinks, no gifts, nothing from him. He's gone." "Okay," she whispered. "When we get back, you're going to tell me everything, even the things you think I don't want to hear. I've been wrapped up in this project, and I'll take some blame for that. If you have issues with me, you need to tell me, but no more hiding." "Okay," she said, her voice barely audible. "And one more thing. For now, we're going to marriage counseling. You can pick the counselor if you want. Hell, maybe Ron can suggest someone. But it's not negotiable if we want any shot at making this work." "Okay," she repeated, nodding. Her phone beeped with a text message. She looked at it, and her face went pale again. "It's him. He's asking where I am," she said softly. Bob held out his hand for the phone. Wordlessly, she handed it over. He scrolled through the messages from earlier that day. "Hey, I got a room with a jacuzzi. Maybe after dinner we can relax. Bring your bikini." "You're not getting me drunk enough to go in a hot tub with you. I'm not bringing a bikini." "We'll see. You know how you get when you're drunk." The most recent message, "Where are you? I got a glass of wine waiting for you." Bob texted back, "Running a little late. I got a surprise for you." The response came quickly. "You brought your bikini? Awesome." Bob handed the phone back to Sharon. She read the messages and hung her head. "You know this isn't helping, right? Just from today's texts, it looks like you were planning to hook up with him tonight. How bad do you think it'll be if I scroll back further?" Bob asked, his voice calm but cutting. Sharon sobbed quietly. "Bob, I swear, I only planned to have dinner. I never planned to sleep with him." "Did you plan to give him your underwear like you did a few weeks ago when you were drunk and dancing with him?" he asked, his words like a knife. She paled even more. "Sharon, we're almost there. You should probably fix your makeup and think about what you're going to say to Luke," Bob advised. "Oh, and don't drink the wine." Sharon quickly pulled down the visor and grabbed a tissue from the glove box. She began fixing her makeup, sniffling as she tried to compose herself. In a more steady tone, she asked, "Bob, I get why you think Luke was playing me. Hearing it from you makes me realize he probably was. But how didn't I see it? I know I've made bad decisions lately, but I'm not some naive girl. I've brushed off better-looking and more charming guys than Luke, so why did he get to me? That's part of why I find it hard to trust anything you say, Sharon. You're smart and beautiful. You should have recognized this for what it was. That's why I wonder if you went along with it willingly." "I messed up," she muttered. "I acted like a strumpet at a bar with him and lied about dinner tonight. No wonder you're angry and hurt." Her color seemed to return, and her voice grew stronger. "Okay, I screwed up, and now I need to figure out how to fix it. Thank you for giving me a chance." She leaned in to kiss him, but he turned his head, and her kiss landed on his cheek. "I'm far from over this, not even close," Bob said coldly. She looked at him, hurt. They were usually affectionate, and his rejection stung. "What do you want me to say to him?" she asked, her voice trembling as they pulled into the restaurant parking lot. Bob turned off the engine and looked at her, his anger bubbling up as he leaned in, staring at her with a cold intensity. "What do I want you to say, Sharon? Our relationship is hanging by a thread because of what you did with this loser. You've torn down a key part of our marriage. Our daughter could be spending Thanksgiving with you and Christmas with me. I want that to sink in. Then, say whatever you need to." Sharon sat in silence for a minute, taking deep breaths before she opened the car door. As they walked toward the Sheraton Hotel's TGI Fridays, she hesitated for a moment, almost reaching for his arm. Bob didn't pull away, but he didn't invite her touch either. They entered the restaurant together in silence. Inside, a young hostess with auburn hair greeted them. "Welcome to TGI Fridays, just the two of you?" Sharon answered before Bob could. "Actually, we're meeting someone. He's already seated." "Feel free to look around," the hostess replied. Sharon nudged Bob's arm, gesturing toward the back. Bob followed her lead, his eyes narrowing as they spotted Luke in a corner near the door leading to the hotel lobby. Luke was fiddling with his phone, unaware they were approaching. Sharon walked ahead, stopping at Luke's table without sitting down. Luke looked up and grinned, but the smile faded quickly when he saw Bob behind her. His expression tightened and his eyes narrowed in suspicion. "Luke," Sharon began, her voice shaking slightly. "This is my husband, Robert Morgan. He has concerns about our relationship, and after talking to him, I agree. For the first time in our marriage, I've given him a reason to doubt me, and I'm going to work to fix what I've damaged. From now on, I want nothing to do with you. Don't call, text, or try to contact me in any way. I take responsibility for letting things go this far, but I'm ending it here." Luke sat silently, his face tight as Sharon continued. "My husband knows about what happened at the Red Horse Saloon, and tomorrow, I'm reporting this to HR. Any attempt to contact me outside of work will be considered maltreatment. Now, I'm going to sit at the bar while my husband talks to you." Before Bob could respond, Sharon leaned in and gave him a firm kiss on the lips, her eyes pleading as she whispered, "I'm so sorry." She then turned and walked toward the bar. Bob couldn't help but admire her resolve, though his feelings remained conflicted. Bob sat down across from Luke, who shifted uncomfortably, trying to keep his cool. Bob could see the nervousness underneath. "So," Bob began in a calm, low voice, "you were expecting a nice dinner with my wife. Maybe something extra afterward, huh?" His cold stare locked onto Luke's eyes. Luke leaned back, attempting a smirk. "I guess she didn't tell you everything," he said, trying to regain control. Bob smiled faintly, unshaken. "She told me enough. And you thought tonight's surprise would be her in a bikini, right?" Luke's smirk faltered briefly. He quickly tried to recover. "You really think she's told you everything, man?" he asked, trying to sound confident. Bob didn't flinch. "Yeah, I do. I've known her for 10 years and been married for 8. I know her a lot better than some lowlife who's been sniffing around for a few months." Luke chuckled, trying to provoke him. "She gives a hell of a head," he sneered, smirking again. Bob's expression remained calm. He leaned in slightly, his voice steady and dangerous. "You want to show me proof? If you had anything real, you wouldn't have needed to spike her drink." Luke's smirk vanished completely. He shifted in his seat, his eyes darting to the glass of wine on the table, the one he had ordered for Sharon. Bob noticed and kept pressing. "Yeah, I saw that," Bob continued. "What was the plan? GHB? Rohypnol? Or just some good old magic pills?" Luke's face turned pale as he leaned back, clearly shaken. Bob had hit a nerve. "You little piece of trash!" Bob hissed, leaning in closer. "I should knock you to a pulp right now, but I'm not sure I wouldn't eliminate you, and I have better things to do than go to jail for someone like you." Luke stayed silent, his confidence completely shattered. "I'm giving you 3 options," Bob said, raising one finger. "Option 1, you apologize to my wife. Quit your job tomorrow and leave town. Do that, and I won't come after you." He raised another finger. "Option 2, you walk into the police station and confess to pilling my wife's drink. Do your time, and when you get out, leave town. I'll keep an eye on you, but I won't come after you." He raised a third finger. "Option 3, we meet in a boxing ring in 4 weeks, sign injury waivers, and neither of us leaves until one of us is unconscious. Then you leave town." Luke blinked, his eyes widening. "You're insane," he spat, regaining a bit of his swagger. "Why would I agree to any of that?" Bob leaned back, taking a long sip from the scotch he had just ordered. "Because every time you step outside at night, go to your car, or open your door, you'll wonder if I'm there. waiting. And when I'm not, you'll wonder if one of my friends is. You'll never know when it's coming, but trust me, it will. Knees, bats. You get the idea. Luke shifted uncomfortably, the smugness draining from his face. You wouldn't do that, he muttered, trying to regain his nerve. You're just a teddy bear. Your wife said so after I screwed her. Bob's calm demeanor vanished. He reached across the table, grabbed Luke by the collar, and pulled him forward to make his point clear. It wasn't aggressive, but it was enough to get his attention. You son of a witch, Luke shrieked, clutching his nose. I'm calling the cops. Go ahead, Bob growled. I'd love for them to test that wine glass for pills and hear the recording I've got of you admitting your plan. Luke's face turned ashen. Within minutes, the police were involved. 2 state troopers, who had been eating across the street, came in to investigate. Bob gave his statement, and they bagged the wine glass for evidence. A search of Luke's pockets turned up a small packet of white powder. When confronted, Luke asked for a lawyer and shut up. It was nearly 4 a.m. by the time Bob and Sharon left the police station. After giving her statement, Sharon spent 15 minutes listening to one of the officers explain how lucky she was that Bob had intervened. By the time they left, she was a wreck. Luke remained in custody. Using Sharon's phone, they called Bob's parents, briefly explaining the situation. His parents were understanding and promised to take care of Casey for the day, planning a trip to the zoo to keep her entertained. When they finally pulled into the garage, both Bob and Sharon sat quietly for a moment. Sharon unbuckled her seatbelt and leaned over the console, hugging Bob tightly. He let her cry into his shoulder for a moment, before gently pushing her back. Sharon, he said softly, we still need to talk, but it's late, and we need some sleep. Tomorrow, we'll call into work and figure out where we go from here. Sound like a plan? She nodded quickly, wiping her tears. Yes, Bob, bed sounds wonderful. Her voice cracked as she asked, Can I please sleep in the bed with you? Bob looked at her and sighed. Of course, baby. I woke up the next morning, spooned up next to my wife. As I thought about everything that had happened, I started to feel like maybe we could be okay. But there were still some tough conversations ahead before I could commit to anything. We went out for breakfast at IHOP and chatted about Casey and the fun she was likely having with my parents. We kept things light and easy. After a final cup of coffee, we paid the bill and headed home. Sitting down at the kitchen table, I looked at her and decided to get things started. Okay, I'll go first, I said. I think you can see what kind of person Luke is now, so I'm not going to knock that dead horse. But he said you gave him a good head and that you called me a teddy bear after sleeping with him. Is any of that true? No, she replied quickly. The worst thing I did with him was that night at the Red Horse. I know what I did was terrible, but nothing else happened beyond that. How can I trust you on that? You lied about seeing him last night, you left out what happened at the bar, and you hid your relationship with him, I said, feeling the need to lay all the cards on the table. I've been thinking about how to earn back your trust, and I have an idea. What about a polygraph test? She suggested. Polygraph test? I had to smile a little. You mean a lie detector test? She nodded. Make an appointment and ask me whatever you need to. Just tell me the time and place, she said with such sincerity, it almost made me smile. I knew lie detector tests weren't 100% reliable, but I would feel better if she passed. I'll see what I can do. It might take some time to set up, but that's actually a good idea, I replied, impressed she had thought of it. She smiled slightly. Okay, that's a good start, and we can revisit the details of your affair later. But here's the big question, the one that hurts the most and affects our relationship the most. How do we move forward? I get that you were ashamed and didn't tell me about the panty incident. I don't like it, but I can understand it. It's harder for me to accept how close you got with another guy without telling me. But if you thought it was just a work friendship, I can see that too. What I can't understand and what breaks my heart is when you told me you were going out with the girls but were actually meeting him for dinner. That was a 100% lie. Forget the consequences. You broke my heart when you lied to me. I know, she said, her eyes filling with tears. I could feel the weight of what she was saying. Bob, all I can do is explain where my head was at the time. First, I want to say I'm deeply sorry for lying to you about everything. When you took on this project, for the first time in our relationship, I felt like I was second place. I'm not blaming you or your work. I understand why you took it and why it mattered to you. I'm just telling you how I felt. I started feeling down, and then Vicky's sister made a comment that I couldn't shake. She said to find romance somewhere else. I didn't take it as a suggestion to cheat, but I interpreted it as permission to seek what I was missing elsewhere while you were focused on work. Then came Luke, she continued. Without realizing it, he started filling that gap. He asked about my day, about our kid, about things I liked. Our conversations were about me, and it made me feel special. She paused, studying my face, but I didn't react. When Vicky called me out on how it looked at lunch, I realized what I had been doing. I was using Luke to get what I wasn't getting from you, so I cooled things off. At the time, I thought he was just being a friend, but I was trying to fix things with you. She paused again. That night, things got out of hand. I didn't invite him or his friends. I showed up early, and they arrived before the other girls. Luke bought drinks for everyone, including me. I ended up getting drunk, drunker than I've been in years. I did some really stupid and shameful things, which you already know about, but afterward we had amazing sex, and that confused me even more. How could I act like a mess and still have such a great night with you? She got up, grabbed a glass of water, drank half of it, then sat back down. After that, it was all about damage control. I knew you'd be furious if you found out what I'd done, and you'd have every right to be. If you had kissed another woman at a bar while drunk, I'd be livid. It didn't help that we had such a great night afterward. You'd probably wonder if I was thinking of someone else. So I made another mistake. I tried to use Luke to cover it up, and he made sure I knew he was helping. Then, I owed him a favor, and he wanted to take me out to dinner on a night when my usual friends couldn't make it. I was still lonely, and I didn't think you'd be home until late. So in a moment of stupidity, I messed up again. I'm so sorry. Our marriage has always been built on trust, and I broke that trust. Tears were streaming down her face, though she wasn't sobbing. Oh, hell, I muttered, standing up to give her a hug. I kissed her deeply, then pulled back. We're not there yet. This is going to take some time, but if you're 100% in, so am I. Sharon and I went to counseling for a while, which really helped me work through my issues. The biggest thing I learned was that just because communication was great when we first got together, didn't mean we didn't need to keep working on it. The counselor also suggested Sharon get checked for a hormonal imbalance. 31 is a bit young for that, but it's not unheard of. After a few tests and a change in her birth control, she felt a lot better. I can't say we're back to where we were, but we're back to a good place. The polygraph test showed she was telling the truth about the tough questions I asked. I still have a little voice in the back of my mind about the accuracy of those tests, but I can live with that. I also signed up for boxing lessons. Sharon got into self-defense classes at the same gym, and Thursday Girls Bar Night turned into Thursday Girls Self-Defense Night. Sharon eventually signed us up for martial arts classes together. She's a natural, and I'm just trying to keep up. Sparring has become some of the best foreplay we've had. My project finished 6 weeks ahead of schedule and under budget. The company's now competing with the big players for government contracts. They tried to promote me to vice president, but it required too much travel, so I turned it down. Instead, I started a special projects division, which came with a new office and an executive assistant. My new executive assistant has the best smile and an amazing backside. So far, no one's complained about me working with my wife. As long as we're making money, I don't think anyone will. Most of my $38,000 bonus from that project went into Casey's college fund, but I kept some aside for a week at an all-inclusive resort with Sharon. By the time we got back, my parents were more than ready to hand our daughter back to us. I did get a misdemeanor attack charge for punching Luke. Best $300 and 40 hours of community service I've ever spent. Luke got 3 to 5 years for attempted attack and pill possession. The white powder was GHB. He also got the crap knocking out of him one night walking to his car. No, it wasn't me. Apparently, Luke had pulled this pilling stunt before, and one of his sufferer's brothers caught up with him. That guy got 2 to 3 years for felony attack. I put $50 a month into his commissary account. Sharon and I worked hard on rebuilding the trust that was damaged. And while it hasn't been easy, we've made significant progress. Our relationship now is stronger because we're both committed to making it work, openly communicating, and ensuring that no gap grows between us again. Therapy has become a regular part of our lives, and we've found a new rhythm that works for both of us. I can't say the fear is completely gone, but I've learned to trust again. Life isn't perfect, but it feels more genuine, more grounded. We both know that maintaining a relationship takes effort, and now we're giving it the attention it deserves. I wake up every morning next to the woman I love, knowing that we've both made mistakes, but also knowing that we're choosing each other every day. That, more than anything else, gives me hope for the future. At the end of the day, sometimes love is messy, but it's the fight to stay together that proves its strength. Maintaining fitness becomes challenging as you reach retirement age. That's why, at 65, I make it a point to jog several miles daily, weather permitting. Earlier today, I spotted Wilton Jones, my closest friend and next-door neighbor, driving by in his old beat-up truck. He flashed me a grin that seemed oddly smug, leaving me uneasy despite our close relationship. That peculiar expression stuck with me and marked the beginning of a major shift in my life. As I reached my property, I saw my wife, Maddie, heading into the house from the garage, a repurposed barn where we keep our cars. It struck me as unusual that she'd head to the garage first thing in the morning. Inside the house, Maddie was coming down the stairs and greeted me with a kiss. "Are you just coming down from bed?" I asked. "Yeah," she said sheepishly, and suggested she might have stayed up too late the night before. She promised to have breakfast ready by the time I returned from my shower. Maddie, who isn't conventionally beautiful and has aged with crow's feet at 63, still has a warmth and charm that I deeply cherish. Despite the signs of aging, I love her more than ever, finding comfort in her presence and expressions. Her good heart and positive nature have made me glad to have married her after 40 years. Despite a recent lie from her, I went upstairs and was stopped in my tracks by a captivating sight. My nearly 40-year-old daughter-in-law, with wet blonde hair and a robe, looked stunning. Her innocent smile, despite her age, evoked strong feelings in me. She had used my shower because my son was using hers. As she smiled at me, my energetic grandson Dylan dashed by, heading downstairs for breakfast. In the shower, Maddie's lie weighed on my mind. After dressing, I joined the family in the kitchen where Maddie had made breakfast. Matt and Kate were already at the table, with Matt focused on his food as usual. Kate teased him about showing more affection, which made everyone laugh. Dylan, eager about our planned fishing trip, asked when we were going. After breakfast, Maddie fussed over me with sunscreen and a kiss, showing her usual concern. Dylan and I then headed out, and he admired my Mustang SVT Cobra, hinting at what would happen to it after I was gone. I dodged the question, knowing he wasn't ready for it. We spent the day fishing, returning home tired but happy. After dinner, we walked around the property while Matt shared childhood memories. Dylan remained curious about the car, so I promised him a ride the next day, which thrilled him. Later, as the family relaxed, Maddie pulled me upstairs, insisting I needed rest. In bed, despite everything, we quickly reconnected intimately, and the world outside our room seemed to disappear. "Is this what you want?" she asked playfully. "Or do you want me to go down and get Kate?" I'm gonna have to think about that one," I said just as mischievously. Buddy," she said, thrusting her hips forward and impaling herself on me. "Kate has one of these attached to your son to play with. This one is mine, all mine." "Ken, I'm sorry," she said, "and I know it was stupid, but it's something I can't help. You know that we're too old to make another baby. Well, I am anyway. But when you do that to me, something primal happens and my womb wants to be filled." I nodded, but my mind was racing. "Sometimes I wish we could have another baby," she said. "You feel so perfect in there. Wait, are you saying that if we were younger, we couldn't have another child?" "Maddie, we've already been through the parenting stage," I fibbed. "We're nearing the end of the grandparent stage. What I want now is to retire and explore the world with you by my side. Once we're done traveling, we can relax in our rocking chairs and embrace the great-grandparent stage." "I'm not sure I want to travel the world with a man who won't at least pretend he wants to have another child," she pouted. "All right, I'll take Kate," I said, turning onto my side to go to sleep. "I already told you this was my choice," she said. "Don't make me go after my daughter-in-law. She's like the daughter I never had. But I'd go after her like a lioness for you, Ken." As we lay together, Maddie slept soundly while my mind raced. Despite our age and her inability to have children, she remained passionate in bed. I questioned her claim that I was the best, considering she had married innocent. I eventually fell asleep peacefully and woke up early, debating whether to skip my run. I decided to go, but lacked enthusiasm. The cool morning air felt right, but the run was tough, and I turned back after just half a mile, frustrated. As I neared home, I noticed Will's truck parked on my property, and my garage door slightly ajar. Staring into the dim light, I realized it was all too clear. There was a hoe plying her trade in my garage. The witch was frightfully close to my car as she did it. It was clear that they were all there willingly, marking a turning point in my life. I had always prided myself on being even-tempered and reasonable, someone who thought things through before acting. However, if pushed too far, I could unleash a fierce side. Next to the door, I found a 2x4 I used to prop the barn door open. I picked it up, knowing I needed it to protect my car from the wind. In a fit of anger, I threw a rock at Will's truck, shattering the windshield. The scene in my garage changed instantly as 3 people scrambled to get dressed. I recognized Will's voice as he wondered if I was the one outside. He quickly mentioned leaving while Maddie complained about not finishing. Will, now almost fully dressed, was heading toward the door. I remembered the smirk he had given me earlier, and my anger flared as I realized how long he had been mocking me. Will burst through the door as I stepped out, and I swung the 2x4 with all my strength. I felt several of his ribs crack, and he screamed loudly enough to wake the dead. He stumbled back into the garage, and I kicked him several times. He was moaning again, but this time it was from pain. Maddie threw herself in between us just as I was about to land another blow. "Ken, don't!" she cried. "You'll end him!" She reached up to stop my arm, and the moment she touched me, it felt like I had come into contact with something toxic. I shoved her away. She fell back into the hay pile she had just been with. "Don't you ever touch me again," I sneered. "Where's the other one, you witch?" "Ken, there's no one else," she said. "I'm so sorry. You have to let me explain." "Dylan, get your A out here, or I swear I'll lock you in and set the garage on fire," I shouted. Without waiting for a response, I turned to the door and grabbed the gas can I used for the lawnmower. "Ken, what are you doing?" Maddie shouted. Behind me, Will staggered to his feet. He was shaky but knew I was serious, so he made a quick exit. I started pouring gasoline around the garage floor as Maddie watched in horror. "Ken, honey, we can talk about this," she pleaded. "It's my fault." I lit a match and raised it up. Just as I was about to drop it, Dylan emerged from his hiding spot. I could hear Will's truck revving up and pulling away behind us. "I'm really sorry, Grandpa," Dylan said. I shot him a furious look, my anger so intense that I struggled not to swing the 2x4 I was still gripping. "I'm not your grandfather anymore," I replied. "I want you out of my house today." "But we're supposed to stay for 2 weeks, he protested. "I promise I won't do it again. I'm really sorry." "I don't care what happens with this tramp," I snapped. "I just don't want it happening in my home. I'll go wake your parents and explain why you need to get the hell out of my sight." "No, please don't," he pleaded. "Ken, you can't do that," Maddie interjected, trying to block my path to the door. "I got into some trouble at school," Dylan explained. "That's part of why Mom and Dad sent me here. We were all going to stay for a couple of weeks, and then they'd go back to Chicago and see if I could stay for the rest of the summer." "Ken, why break the whole family apart over this?" Maddie urged. "We can figure this out, I promise." I looked away from the frightened boy who shared my blood and faced the woman I thought I would spend my life with. "Why on earth would I want to resolve anything with you?" I snapped, filled with anger. "Because we love each other," she replied, as if it were completely obvious. She reached out her hand, trying to offer comfort as she had done countless times over the last 40 years, and I instinctively reached back for her. But then my anger overwhelmed that sense of familiarity, and I reacted. "If you touch me, I swear I'll hurt you more than you've ever been hurt," I warned, my calm voice making it clear just how serious I was. "But Ken," she said, her voice trembling as if I had actually hit her. You don't mean that." I turned and walked into the house, leaving her there.
Maddie. As I watched Ken walk away toward the house, it felt like a massive lump had formed in my throat that I couldn't swallow. This couldn't be real. Ken couldn't have meant what he said, but then again, he hadn't really said much, had he? He called me a witch and a hoe, but that was just his anger speaking. He told our grandson to leave. He couldn't have really meant that. For the first time in 40 years, I had no idea what Ken was thinking or what he might do next. His outburst at his best friend showed me he was angrier than I had ever seen him. I needed to go after him and calm him down before he did something that could tear our family apart. "Grandma, you have to do something," Dylan complained from behind me. "Dad said this summer is my last chance. I can't afford to get into trouble again, especially not this soon." "You should have thought about that earlier," I replied as I walked away, following Ken. As always, he was focused on the practical and immediate. Despite his anger, he still needed a shower. That's where I found him. I opened the door and looked at him like I had so many times before. His body was surprisingly toned and muscular for his age. His workouts and runs kept him in shape, and I enjoyed looking at him. Suddenly, I realized what I had put at risk. I pushed that thought away. "What do you want for breakfast, honey?" I asked, as I usually did. "Get away from me, ho!" he snapped, not caring who heard. He pulled the shower door shut. "You don't need to shout," I said calmly. "And there's no need to close the door. I've seen you without clothes for the past 40 years. There's nothing you have that I haven't seen 1,000 times. You won't be seeing it anymore," he retorted. Then, seemingly with great effort, he calmed down, grabbed a towel, and wrapped it around himself. He opened the door and stepped out. "What do you want, Madeline?" he asked, his tone much calmer than his eyes suggested. "I think we need to talk about—" "Well, you know," I said. "But maybe we should wait a bit. You need time to calm down, and I need time to explain things to you. We really don't want to spoil the kids' visit. We only see them once or twice a year, so perhaps we should wait until they're gone, okay? I don't want to talk to you," he said. "I don't want to calm down. I don't care about anything you have to say. Pretending to be civil around the kids or lying to them is just another form of deceit. Maybe you've been lying and hiding things for so long that you've lost touch with the truth. But eventually the kids will find out about this. Sooner or later, everyone will know." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "The kids will want to know why we're separating," he replied. Suddenly, my heart started racing and I felt faint. I stumbled but managed to steady myself by grabbing the wall. Ken didn't even hesitate. For the first time in over 40 years, I sensed he didn't care about my health or well-being. "I'm pretty sure Chelsea is wondering what happened to Will. I hurt him pretty badly. If he decides to press charges, I might end up in jail. Honestly, I hope he does. I'll tell anyone who asks what happened and why I confronted him. I bet Chelsea will kick him out. That place has been in her family for generations. He won't have a leg to stand on and will be out by nightfall." "Ken, you'll destroy their marriage," I said. "They have kids to think about. Will also has a business to consider. In a small town like this, he could lose at least half his customers. He's been your best friend since middle school. Why do you want to ruin his life? He ruined mine first," he shot back. "While you're so busy worrying about everyone else's kids, families, jobs, and feelings, did you ever think about mine? What about my feelings? What about our son and his family?" "Ken, I'm sorry if I hurt you," I said. "That was never my intention. I love you more than—" "If you ever say that again, I'll knock your teeth out," he snapped. His expression was completely serious. Ken had gone from calm to furious in an instant. His anger and hatred were palpable. At that moment, I realized just how deeply I had hurt him, and I recognized my mistake. For most of my life, I had taken Ken's love and the certainty that we would always be together for granted. I never considered the possibility that I might lose that love, or that he could doubt for even a moment how much I loved him. Things were deteriorating rapidly. I needed to do something to calm him down before his pain led him to hurt others. What I needed to do was create a sense of normalcy to give him time to process his anger. I left the bathroom and headed downstairs to start breakfast. It was nearly 7, and Matt and Kate would be getting up soon. I wanted to shield them from everything that had happened. As I made my way downstairs, I ran into Kate. "Hi, Mom," she said. Looking at her, I could see why my husband had a crush on her. My daughter-in-law is beautiful, but her beauty isn't so much outward. Kate is one of the sweetest people I've ever met. Matt must have done something extremely great in one of his previous lives to end up with a woman like her. She mentioned a strange dream about Dylan facing a bear, which left me momentarily stunned. She had checked on him, finding him in the kitchen where he was busy eating. Just as we were chatting, Ken came down and hugged Kate, expressing his love for her and asking her to tell Matt the same. However, he didn't acknowledge me, which raised my concern further, especially since he wasn't dressed for work. Moments later, I heard the roar of Ken's Mustang, its aggressive sound reflecting his mood. I wondered if his anger was making him drive more recklessly or if the car truly mirrored his emotions. If it was the latter, Ken was angrier than I had ever seen him. I had mixed feelings. On one hand, it was flattering to think that my husband loved me so fiercely that he could become enraged at the thought of me with someone else. On the other hand, I worried about the damage this situation could cause our family, depending on how I managed Ken's anger. My previous attempts at reasoning with him had failed, so I knew I needed a different approach. Breakfast was quiet. I told Matt and Kate that Ken was at a last-minute meeting with a disgruntled supplier, and they seemed to accept it, especially Kate. Dylan, however, was unusually silent, pushing his food around his plate. Eventually, he asked to be excused and retreated to his room. Kate reassured Dylan that he would have plenty of time with his grandpa, noting their special bond. She expressed her wish that Dylan's relationship with Ken was as strong as her connection with her late father. Despite Kate's sunny demeanor, her words stung, reminding me of the damage my actions had caused to our family. After breakfast, Matt took Dylan fishing, with Kate tagging along, iPad in hand. To my surprise, they returned just a couple of hours later, a stark contrast to the previous day when Ken and Dylan were gone all day. I asked what had happened, and Ken mentioned that Dylan didn't feel like fishing. This set a somber tone for the rest of the day. When dinner time arrived without a word from Ken, I grew anxious, unsure of how to explain his absence to the kids. I called him, and the phone rang endlessly before he finally answered. "What?" he asked. His tone made it clear I was the last person he wanted to speak to, and that stung. "When are you coming home?" I inquired. "Who said I'm coming home?" he shot back. My heart sank. "Ken, do we really have to ruin Matt's vacation?" I pleaded. "Can't we just wait to deal with this until he's gone?" "You're the one who started all of this," he replied. "Did you think about that while you were sneaking guys into my garage and sleeping with them?" "Ken, we need to talk," I said. "Can you please just come home?" "Why would I want to come home? Besides, I'm working on giving you what you asked for," he said. "I'll probably be here for another hour. Is your grandson still around?" "Yes, but, Ken, you need to give me some time to get him out of here. I began. "I don't have to give you anything," he interrupted. "For 40 years, I've given you everything you wanted. I gave you my heart, my body, my mind, and all my love, and look where that got me." The most unsettling part of the conversation was Ken's calm demeanor. Rather than expressing anger, he spoke casually, as if he had thoroughly analyzed the situation. After dinner, Ken returned home to a warm welcome from Matt and Kate. Dylan had already retreated to his room, likely feeling unwell due to the ongoing tension. Ken spent a couple of hours talking with Matt and Kate, reminiscing about the past. Kate pointed out a picture of Ken in a hospital gown with Matt on his knee, which sparked fond memories for them, though Matt couldn't recall the details. I remembered well the circumstances surrounding that photo. Ken had been a hero, donating his bone marrow to his brother Ben, who suffered from a congenital defect that ran in their family. The transplant had extended Ben's life, but ultimately the disease returned. Watching Ken interact with Matt and Kate reassured me. I knew he would eventually forgive Dylan and me. It was simply part of who he was. After a while, Matt and Kate went to their room, and Ken entered ours. He barely acknowledged me as he gathered his things, indicating he planned to sleep elsewhere. I felt it was time to address the situation directly, using an authoritative tone reminiscent of my days as a schoolteacher. Ken just stared at me. "Ken, we've been married for over 40 years, I said. "We've faced good times and bad, but we've always managed to work through our issues. This situation won't be any different. You left this morning without giving us a chance to discuss what happened. I believe I deserve at least that much. You're supposed to be the man I'll spend the rest of my life with. We're married, for goodness sake. I think I deserve more than this. And I think I deserve more than being married to the town hoe," he shot back. At least he kept his voice lower this time. "How long have you been sleeping with my friends? How many of them are there?" "Ken, you have to give me a chance to explain," I urged. "It really isn't what you think." He sat down on the edge of the bed, distancing himself as much as possible. "I'm not contagious," I said. "You can't catch anything from me. Just yesterday, you loved being close to me." His reluctance to touch me or be near me hurt deeply. "Yesterday, I didn't know I was married to a hoe," he spat. "Yesterday, I didn't know my best friend was betraying me. Just wait until I talk to Chelsea." "I thought you were going to let me explain," I said calmly. He simply leaned back on the bed, moving even further away from me. "Go ahead, I don't have all night," he replied. "Ken, you were the first, and until all of this started, the only person I slept with. When we first became intimate, it was scary, and I've never told you this, but it kind of hurt. I only went along with it because you enjoyed it so much and I loved you, so I put up with it. Over time, it became pleasurable for me too. There were moments when my desire fluctuated, but I always cherished the feelings of being close to you. Things changed for me in my late 40s and early 50s. I started to dislike closeness, but Ken was patient and never pushed or complained. As my feelings began to shift back, predictability crept in. I could anticipate every move he made, and it became routine and boring. Despite enjoying our intimate moments, I found myself wanting more. I loved Ken deeply and didn't want to hurt him, but frustration grew. I discovered that Will was experiencing the opposite with Chelsea, who had lost all interest in closeness. This realization led to complications in my life. I want to clarify that Will is not better than Ken. He's simply different. There are no feelings for him. Our encounters lack the intimacy that Ken and I share. Then Dylan caught us together and threatened to tell Ken unless I gave him something in return. Dylan, being younger and wilder, introduced me to new experiences. But none of this was more important than my marriage. I was going through a phase and believed that since I had accommodated Ken's needs before, he could now understand mine. Ken seemed to consider my points, but questioned why I hadn't communicated my needs for more intimacy earlier. He processed it on his own and decided that we wouldn't be intimate again, stating he would release me from our vows. My anger rose as I argued that I didn't intend to stop our relationship. He handed me papers. As I put on my glasses to read, Ken began packing his things. He pointed out that while I sought fulfillment elsewhere, he had remained faithful. He was hurt that I hadn't given him a chance this time and accused me of wanting freedom outside the marriage. Ken accused me of wanting freedom outside the marriage, saying he wouldn't stop me anymore. I tried to explain that I only wanted him and that it was never about finding someone else. It was just about act. He told me he had filed for divorce, offering a 50-50th split and allowing me to stay in the house as long as no other men were brought there. He made it clear that the house would go to our children, excluding Dylan. As Ken drove away, I was left hoping he might return. I went through the pain of watching the man I loved walk out of my life, taking only the essentials. The next morning, I lied to the kids, saying Ken had left for work. They sensed something was wrong, and the days that followed were filled with tension as I struggled to maintain the appearance of normalcy. Dylan struggled with the loss of his close relationship with Ken, and soon expressed a desire to go home. A few days later, Chelsea arrived in tears, revealing that Will had been in a serious car accident, crashing into a tree. His injuries, combined with a heart condition, had caused his heart to stop temporarily, leaving him in a coma. Chelsea returned to the hospital, while I was left feeling guilty for my part in the situation and the lies I told about Ken. Only Paul, Ken's lawyer, knew the truth, but was bound by confidentiality. Meanwhile, Matt and Kate took Dylan back to Chicago, promising to return for Christmas. I spent my days supporting Chelsea at the hospital. Over the months, as Will's condition worsened, Chelsea and I grew closer, though I couldn't shake the guilt. Doctors informed me that Will's heart condition was long-standing and likely would have caused a heart attack regardless of Ken's involvement. This brought some relief, knowing Ken wouldn't have to bear that guilt when he returned. By Christmas, I finally told the kids that Ken had left, offering vague explanations. They surprisingly accepted it. Matt was upset with Ken, while Kate believed he had his reasons, leading to tension between them. One night, alone with Dylan, he inappropriately touched me, and I reacted by punching him, causing him to vomit. I confronted him about the chaos he'd caused, reminding him that Ken had cut him out of the will and vowed never to cheat again. A year after Ken left, Matt and Kate divorced. They occasionally reached out, asking me to let Dylan visit, but I always found excuses. Dylan's life spiraled. He flunked out of college, struggled to keep jobs, and constantly got into trouble. Will eventually passed away, and Chelsea found love again with a paraplegic man she met at the hospital. They seemed genuinely happy together. I tried dating after Ken left, but nothing worked. Deep down, I only wanted him. Eventually, it became clear that no one else wanted me either. I posted ads on dating sites but got no responses. The few times I had closeness, it was with men who were as unsatisfying as the encounters themselves. This led me to reflect on my life, feeling like a lonely woman who had ruined her own happiness. My desire for closeness faded after Ken left, and those experiences were more about curiosity than actual want. I realized even my time with Will only mattered because of Ken. Living without him was unbearable. 3 years later, after his departure, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I appeared older and more defeated. Then I received a call from Matt, whom I hadn't heard from in months. He sounded emotional, asking me to call him or Kate. Before I could respond, Kate arrived at my door, her once beautiful face now showing pain from the divorce. She hugged me tightly, and her concern made me regret trying to joke about my age. Kate revealed that Dylan was in trouble. Her tone conveyed a mother's desperation. I hadn't seen Dylan since I hit him years ago, and my feelings toward him were complicated. Over the years, I understood that I had been dealing with a hormone imbalance, which I had tried to treat on my own. Losing Ken was mostly my fault, but I also blamed Will and Dylan. Blaming Will, now gone, accomplished nothing. Dylan had betrayed me by blackmailing me and betraying his grandfather. Even after seeing how hurt Ken was, Dylan had the nerve to make another move on me. I'll never forget the satisfaction of knocking him down and the stupid look on his face. "Mom, Dylan has it," Kate whined. "Dylan has what?" I asked, certain that whatever it wasn't a job. The boy had been guilt-tripping both parents over the divorce to squeeze money from them. What they seemed to overlook was that Dylan was over 21 when they split. He was an adult. "My baby has that cancer that runs in the family," she cried. My heart sank. "Mom, what am I going to do?" she sobbed. "We'll get him the best doctors available," I assured her, reaching out to hug her. In that moment, I wished I could take away some of her pain. However, my compassion only extended to Kate. Dylan was still a snake in my eyes. "Mom, can you contact Dad for us?" she asked. "Matt told me Dad saved his brother by giving him bone marrow. He has some kind of antibodies in his bone marrow that helped keep it dormant for a while." I just stared at her blankly. "Can't they use Matt's bone marrow? One of Ben's kids could help too," I suggested. "Matt was already tested," she explained. "He's a close match, but he doesn't have the antibodies. I'm a double negative, so I lack both the DNA and the antibodies. And Ben's kids are both girls. Apparently, this only affects males." By the time she finished telling me about Dylan's condition and what they had done so far, Matt had arrived. I had to admit it. My son looked terrible. At 46, he resembled his father almost exactly, which was alarming since he was 22 years younger than Ken. Ken looks good for a man in his late 60s, but Matt just looked worn out. He saw Kate and went to her, embracing her as he reassured her that everything would be okay.
Ken. Every morning felt fresh, and I couldn't help but smile, knowing I had moved beyond my past mistakes. Miranda, even in her sleep, kept her leg draped over me, showing her reluctance to let go. She woke up, mentioning she'd join me for my run, and as she stretched, her beauty captivated me. I called her by the special nickname Miranda, a term only I used. Then, she opened up about her past insecurities, sharing how others had only valued her for physical pleasure, not for who she was, but I made her feel truly loved. She shared that I was the first man she had pursued, her first serious relationship. This revelation deepened my understanding of her attachment and fear of losing me. Despite our age difference, me nearing 70 and her in her 40s, our bond was stronger than I could have imagined. Though I couldn't fully grasp how it all came together, her shrug said it didn't matter. Our connection was real, and that's all that mattered. In a quiet moment, Miranda expressed her desire for me to be her last, prompting me to ask if she would consider marriage as I got out of bed. She remained silent for a while, hiding under the blankets. I pulled them off, catching her off guard. She seemed surprised by my seriousness, but hesitated to respond. Miranda playfully chastised me for my language, and as I tried to ask something important, she interrupted, excited, but conflicted. She revealed she had been keeping something from me for days, unsure how I'd react due to our age difference. Finally, she blurted out that we were going to have a baby. Shocked, I blurted out something thoughtless, which hurt the trust we had built over the years. Miranda ran to the bathroom, crying and locking the door. I felt terrible and tried to coax her out, even attempting to break down the door, but I ended up falling awkwardly. Eventually, she came out, tearful, and reassured me that the baby was mine. She asked if I truly wanted to marry her, and I reminded her that I had asked before the baby news. She insisted I propose properly and not out of obligation. The next morning, we skipped my run and went out for breakfast. Miranda excitedly told everyone about our engagement, and surprisingly, no one was shocked. Most thought we were already married. Sharing the pregnancy news raised a few eyebrows, though. After breakfast, we went to a jewelry shop where Miranda chose her ring. She had planned everything for the proposal that evening, even booking us haircuts and deciding what I should wear. Miranda insisted I practice my proposal, wanting it to be perfect and spontaneous. She humorously mentioned having Al, Samantha Green's husband, videotape the moment. I joked about not wanting to mess it up, but she playfully threatened to say no if I did. Despite my past feelings of loss, I welcomed the changes ahead. I felt grateful for Miranda, never expecting to find happiness again, especially not so soon after leaving Michigan. I had doubted our age difference would lead to anything serious, but here we were, planning a future together. Just as we parked my Mustang and entered the house, I realized I had left the tiny bag containing Miranda's ring in the glove box. Miranda, eager to show off her future ring, practiced how she would display it to catch the light. She sent me back outside to get the ring. That was when everything went wrong, and my life felt like it was falling apart. "Ken?" Someone called from behind me. The voice was familiar and filled with emotion. Suddenly, I found myself being hugged. I looked into the eyes of my ex-wife, with my son right next to her. "What the hell are you doing here, Madeline?" I asked, taken aback. "We hired a private investigator to find you," she explained. "It's time for you to come home, honey. Your family needs you." "Yeah, Dad," Matt chimed in. "You're lucky Mom even wants you back after you walked out on her." I just stared at him. "Matthew, you really need to get your facts straight before saying something foolish," I replied. "It only makes you look like an idiot." "Ken, you have to come back," Maddie urged, trying to change the subject. "Our grandson needs you. He has the same cancer your brother had." "What does that have to do with me?" I retorted. "Get off my property before I call the police." I turned to go back inside, leaving them standing there. "But he'll die," Maddie said. "Thousands of people die every day," I said. "And they all manage to live or die without me."
Maddie, as Matt and I walked away, we were both in disbelief. Neither of us had anticipated anything like what had just happened. Of course, I had my own hopes for how things would go, but it was clear that even after 4 years, Ken's anger hadn't faded. To me, that was a positive sign. If he was still that angry, it meant he still had strong feelings for me. Maybe I could leverage that to get him to help Matt. "Mom, what's wrong with that jerk?" Matt shouted. "I always thought there was something off about him just leaving you, but now I think he might be losing it. Maybe he has dementia?" Suddenly, a strange expression crossed Matt's face. As we drove through the unfamiliar town, his smile grew wider, resembling a Cheshire cat's by the time we returned to the motel. Kate remained in the same chair as before, still trying to contact the retired cancer specialist who had treated Ken's brother, Ben. Despite the challenges, her dedication was impressive, as she tirelessly made hundreds of calls to reach that doctor and other notable cancer specialists and clinics. As soon as she spotted us, she set the phone down and greeted us with the same smile that had convinced countless doctors, nurses, and medical staff to comply with her wishes. "When is Dad coming?" she asked. Matt's smile quickly disappeared. "That's why we got divorced," he snapped. "No, it isn't," she replied. "Anyway, when is he coming over, or is he just going to hop on a plane and meet us back in Michigan?" "He got pretty angry when he saw us," Matt said. "He's not coming. We'll have to figure something else out. But I have an idea." "I'm listening," Kate said. "I think he's losing it," Matt declared. "I'm going to call the police and have him arrested for mental incompetence. Then we can commit him. As his family will be able to make all his medical decisions, so he'll have to donate bone marrow whether he likes it or not." "You two can share a room in the loony bin," Kate retorted. "We are not doing anything like that to Dad. The police will investigate his mental state, and when they find out he's fine, they'll release him. You'll be charged with filing a false report, and Dad will be even angrier with us. What did you do to make him mad?" "You see what I mean?" Matt said. "Do you remember what she said when he first left you, Mom? She was convinced he had his reasons. She acted like it was your fault." I stayed silent. Kate pressed on. "What did you do, Matt? Were you hostile?" Did you ask him nicely, or did you go over there yelling and screaming like you always do? Actually, it was Mom who did all the talking, Matt replied. He looked really angry to see her. I was just defending Mom. So, let's think this through logically, Kate said. If Dad did something wrong, he'd be happy to have Mom come and forgive him. He'd be doing everything he could to get back. I had to step in before my daughter-in-law made things worse. That's how we should approach this, I said. We have the solution right here. What? Matt and Kate asked in unison. We just send Kate, I suggested. First, she has a way of charming anyone. And secondly, your dad has always cared for her. He used to say she was the best and smartest choice you ever made. My own father had feelings for my wife? Matt shouted. Of course not, Matt. Don't be ridiculous. Your dad loved her like a daughter. He thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world. Everyone has a secret crush, usually on a movie star or singer. In your dad's case, it was Kate, but he never acted on it or said anything. He loved me more than anything else. So maybe Kate can succeed where we failed. He could never refuse her. Okay, give me the keys. I'll go see Dad, Kate said. Not by yourself, Matt retorted. Now that we know the two of you have feelings for each other, you're not going anywhere near him without me. The last thing I need is my wife with my dad. We're not married anymore, Kate said, snatching the keys. And there's nothing I won't do to save my baby.
Ken, I had just finished showering when the doorbell rang. Moments later, I heard Randa answer the door, her uneven footsteps indicating she was only wearing one shoe. When I entered the living room, I found Miranda glaring at my daughter-in-law, Kate. It struck me how much Randa resembled Kate, though they weren't identical. Kate was classier and taller, while Randa had a fuller figure. Both shared heart-shaped faces and beautiful eyes, Kate's blue like the sea, Randa's green like emeralds. In that tense moment, it was clear they were both upset, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. I braced myself for the impending clash, wanting to find shelter from the storm of emotions that was about to erupt. Miranda, you hoe, what are you doing in my father's house? Kate shouted. As I remember it, Miranda retorted, your father wasn't exactly a saint. He was an alcoholic and he doesn't live here. You've probably slept with so many men that you've mixed my father up with someone else, Kate spat. Oh no, I remember him very well, Miranda replied. I always remember those who were supposed to be family but treated me poorly. I especially remember the ones who looked down on me in public but tried to take advantage of me in private. He was my mother's brother. He shouldn't have tried to get me drunk and sleep with me. Kate gasped, shocked by the revelation. Why are you surprised, Katie? You were just as bad. You were my favorite cousin, and you abandoned me like everyone else. It hurt more coming from you. I looked up to you and wanted to be just like you. When you turned your back on me, Miranda, I went away to college, Kate interrupted. When I came back, you were known as the town hoe. According to everyone I talked to, including your parents, you had slept with almost every guy in town, many of them more than once. And you believed it, of course, Miranda said. She started to cry, and that was my cue. I walked into the room and wrapped her in my arms. I sat down on the sofa with her in my lap, gently rocking her. Kate, I think you should leave, I said. Seeing the hurt in her eyes made me feel guilty. Dad, what is she to you? Kate asked. She's everything, I replied passionately. We had a very special evening planned for tonight, and nothing is going to stop that. I already know what you want. I've told your husband and your mother-in-law that I can't help you. It was nice seeing you again, but you really need to go. Dad, Matt and I are no longer married, she said. I don't know what's happening between you and my cousin or why you won't help your own grandson. Something is really off here, so can you postpone your special night so we can talk? She flashed me her best smile. No, I said firmly. There's nothing in the world that would make me delay tonight. Fine, we'll talk in the morning, she replied. We'll settle all of this once and for all. There's nothing to settle, I said. Dad, please, she pleaded. I know I'm not your biological daughter, but I always wished I was. I've always felt like one, so can we just talk and get everything out in the open? He said no, Miranda interjected. You can't have him. If you don't leave us alone, I'll kick your skinny A. Miranda, this isn't your concern, Kate shot back. This is family business. Do you know what this is? Miranda asked, flashing her hand to show her ring, which caught the light. I am his family. He's mine. We're getting married and we're going to... She hesitated. We're going to stay together forever. I'll be here early tomorrow, Kate said. I'll come alone, so maybe I can figure out what's going on between my cousin and me. Then we can all get together to discuss everything else. I have a feeling things are going to get messy. We might all end up smelling bad when this is over." After Kate left, Miranda looked at me with tears in her eyes, accusing me of only loving her because she resembled Kate. I reassured her that my feelings were genuine and that nothing had changed. I loved her more than anything. Miranda smirked, saying she would invite her family to the wedding, to which I agreed, teasing that she should gather their addresses since she claimed not to have any family. Our evening unfolded as Miranda had envisioned. When I finally got down on one knee, every eye in the restaurant was on us. Before I could ask the question, she exclaimed, "Yes!" so loudly that even the cooks came out to see. We received a complimentary dessert, leaving me to wonder if Miranda had arranged it. Back home, she insisted on watching the proposal video multiple times, sharing it on social media. By the third viewing, I was exhausted and ready for bed, but Miranda had other plans. As we lay down, our kisses ignited a passionate encounter, and I lost myself in the intensity of our connection that night. We woke up and went for a run, with Miranda following me on her bike. Upon returning home, we found Kate waiting for us on the porch. After showering, the three of us made breakfast together and enjoyed it on the deck. As we finished eating, Miranda opened up about her past, revealing how she had always tried to emulate Kate in appearance and behavior. Growing up with a religious mother and an alcoholic father, Miranda had lived a sheltered life, never even experiencing a kiss by the age of 18. She contrasted this with Kate's seemingly perfect life, which included marriage and pregnancy at a young age, something Miranda envied deeply. Unable to attend college, Miranda began working as a waitress. After a long Super Bowl shift, she accepted a ride home from two classmates who gave her beer laced with something she didn't recognize. The next morning, she woke up on the side of the road, realizing she had been offended by 6 men. The town, however, turned against her when a video made it appear as though she had willingly participated. Her reputation was destroyed, leading to her ostracization from friends, family, and even losing her job. As her life spiraled, Miranda found herself in a series of toxic relationships. Seeking affection, she was often taken advantage of, and one particularly harmful relationship with a married man further damaged her reputation. Her loneliness led to heavy drinking, and she found herself stuck in a destructive cycle of alcohol and meaningless encounters. By her 30s, Miranda felt utterly devalued, with her only interactions being abusive and exploitative. Her male relatives, who should have protected her, instead treated her cruelly, and as she aged, she felt even more discarded. She recounted an incident where her cousin, Horace, physically assaulted her at a bar after she rejected him, causing her to lose her front teeth in a violent punch, while bystanders laughed. Her life in Ohio was marked by abuse and neglect until a pivotal moment on July 3, 2010. While waitressing at a bar, a group of men attempted to force her into something horrible. However, a sober older man intervened, managing to stop the situation from escalating further. This moment marked a turning point in Miranda's life, as someone finally stood up for her amidst a town that had treated her so poorly. I stood up to the 4 guys, determined to protect Miranda. One tried to shove me, but I grabbed a wooden chair and swung it hard, knocking one of them out cold. The others froze, unsure what to do next. Just then, 3 gunshots rang out, silencing the room. The cops had arrived, firing into the ceiling to stop the fight. Instead of helping, the cops turned on me, telling me to leave town. They said there was no place for someone like me, and they laughed when I told them those men had tried to gang ape Miranda. They dismissed it, saying, "You can't ape a hoe," and told me to get in my Mustang and leave before they changed their minds about not charging me. As I walked out, I heard them harassing Miranda, blaming her for everything. She stumbled out of the bar, too drunk to stand, and just as she started to fall, I caught her. I knew I had to get her out of there, away from the cruelty of the town. The next morning, Miranda woke up to the smell of breakfast. She felt better despite her hangover, and was surprised to see I had made her food. We were about 50 miles south of the town, staying in a motel near a Greyhound bus terminal. I offered her money for a bus ticket home, suggesting she could return when things calmed down. She noticed the kindness in my eyes, though there was also a sadness, as if I had lost something important. We ate in silence, and Miranda was taken aback by how I treated her like a person, not just an object. When she asked if we'd slept together, I explained that I had slept on the sofa, leaving her fully clothed, as I was worried about her safety in her drunken state. She was shocked that I hadn't taken advantage of her, something she wasn't used to. I told her I was heading somewhere new to start over. Without any better plans and a gut feeling that she was meant to come with me, Miranda asked if she could tag along. I agreed, and we stayed together, eventually finding a house in bad shape that we fixed up ourselves. Despite my belief that she would one day find someone closer to her age, Miranda assured me she wasn't leaving. Getting Miranda's teeth fixed was tough, but it gave me a chance to be close to her. She'd lie on the couch and I'd hold her. She'd try to get my attention romantically by wearing tight clothes, but I didn't react like the other men she'd known. I wasn't like them, and I think that confused her. Things got messy when local women started showing up, bringing food and trying to win me over. Miranda stayed close to me, throwing away their offerings. She was especially jealous of one woman who caught my eye despite being only 10 years older than her. One evening, while I was in the shower, Miranda kicked out a woman who had invited us to a church social. When I came down, we had our first argument. I told her she was blocking me, but she made it clear I was hers. I wiped her tears and kissed her, and for the first time, it felt real and intimate. But just as things heated up, I sat on the sofa and turned on the TV, leaving her frustrated. I admitted I was scared of ruining what we had, afraid that intimacy might complicate things. She shut me up with a kiss. Later that night, she moved her stuff into my dresser, making it clear she wasn't leaving. We didn't have closeness, but we got comfortable, and she warned me not to bring any more women around. She made it clear I was hers, and that was the start of our life together. The last 3 years have been great, until Kate showed up. So, you're his daughter-in-law, or you used to be, and you're my cousin, or you used to be. None of that matters, Kate. Both of us have put the past behind us. We weren't happy in the past, and we aren't going to start looking back now. We have a bright future ahead of us. So thanks for coming all the way out here, but whatever you're selling, we aren't buying it. Kate, on the other hand, seemed unaware of what had happened over the years, admitting that life had gotten in the way and she had lost touch. She acknowledged the troubled nature of our family in Ohio, but seemed genuinely sorry for not knowing more. Before she could finish, the doorbell rang, and Miranda's tense call for me to come inside made it clear something was wrong. When I walked into the living room, I saw Matt and Maddie standing at the door. "Fantastic!" I exclaimed. "Now they're all here." Kate entered the room behind me. "I told you to let me handle this," she replied. "I didn't want to leave you alone with him," Matt shot back. "What does it matter to you?" she retorted. "We're not married anymore." "And whose fault is that?" he shouted. "You wanted the divorce? You asked for it." "I never wanted it, jerk. I just wanted you to fight for us. I needed to know if I meant enough to you for you to put in some effort to keep me," Kate argued. "That's nonsense," Matt replied harshly. "You had feelings for my dad. Even when he abandoned my mom, you were on his side. Mom told me he thought you were the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. It's no surprise he left my mother. He found your damn twin and ran off with her." Maddie glared at Miranda in anger but remained silent. "Let's go, Matt," she urged. "This is all too bizarre," Kate said. "Mom, you just walked in and saw Dad for the first or second time in 4 years. You just found out he's living with my cousin, and it feels like I'm more shocked than you are. What's going on?" "All right, we need to sort all of this out," I interjected. "I have a life to get back to, and as long as this mess hangs over me, you all won't leave me in peace. So let's act like adults, go sit on my deck, and talk this through." We all headed back out to my deck. As the sun climbed higher, Miranda and Kate went inside to grab cold drinks for everyone, while I extended the awning over the deck to create some shade and make it more comfortable. Once everyone settled in, Matt and Maddie at one end of the table, Randa and me at the other, and Kate in the middle, we began our conversation. "First of all, Matt, I've never done anything to you. Why are you so aggressive toward me?" I asked. "Because you left Mom without giving her any explanation. And because my wife was always let down by me since I wasn't as successful as you. I'm not some big business genius, so I could never measure up," he replied. Both Kate and I started to chuckle. "Come on, Matt," Maddie said. "They're not taking us seriously. They're laughing at your feelings." "Katie, you go ahead," I suggested. "Matt, you're such an idiot," Kate said. "You've always been one. If you don't get your act together, you'll stay an idiot forever. Yes, I love your dad. There, I said it. Are you happy now?" Matt looked shocked. "I love him so much it's off the charts," she added, leaning closer to him. "You selfish witch," Miranda spat. "I'm going to—" "Calm down, cousin," Kate smiled. "Matt, I love him like a father and he loves me like a daughter. My own dad was an alcoholic who never cared about me or his kids. And yeah, Matt, I wanted you to be more like your dad. But it wasn't about money. It was about your time and attention. Your dad treated your mom like a queen. They were hardly ever apart. She was his whole world. Even after 40 years of marriage, they walked around holding hands. He treated her like she was gold. It's the same way he treats my cousin now. Just look at them. I bet if you check under the table, they're holding hands right now. Miranda raised our hands. If you understood how difficult my cousin's life has been, you'd realize how much love that man has to give. That's what I needed from you. I never cared about being rich or making a lot of money. I just wanted to feel important to you. But it always seemed like everything else took priority. I asked for a divorce to jolt you into fighting for us, but instead you just agreed and gave up. How was I supposed to? Matt started. Even after we divorced, I always hoped you'd want to reconcile, Kate said. We both know we've dealt with our divorce in different ways. I haven't been out with a bunch of women trying to get over you. But no one compares to you, Kate, he replied. I feel so empty all the time. I thought you wanted the divorce because Dad left Mom, and wow, I've been a fool. I was jealous of my own dad for no reason. Dad, why did you leave Mom? Matt asked. And why won't you help Dylan? I really want to know that too, Kate added. You two were so in love and then you were just gone overnight. She never told you? I asked. I figured she'd let me take the blame. Well, as you both mentioned, I loved your mother like there was no tomorrow. She was my entire world. But that all changed during your last visit to the old house. I went for a run and something compelled me to go home. When I did, I found your mother cheating on me with 2 men. It shattered my heart. I had never felt such pain before. I just lost it. The worst part was that one of those men was my best friend, Will. Dad, Uncle Will died soon after you left, Matt exclaimed. Yeah, I beat him up pretty badly, I admitted. You didn't kill him, Ken, Maddie said. Will passed away from complications of congestive heart failure. He had a massive heart attack, but he did one honorable thing. He told the sheriff he crashed his truck. That covered up what you did to his windshield and explained why his ribs were broken. You broke most of his ribs when you jumped on him. He pretended the crash happened to protect Chelsea from finding out he'd cheated on her. Maybe he was also saving himself, because Chelsea would have gone after him hard. Why did you just sneak away without trying to fix things, Dad? Matt asked. I get that you're angry, but why not at least fill Kate and me in on what was happening? Why not talk to Mom and explain it to her? I didn't run off, I snapped. That never happened. I consulted a lawyer. I had divorce papers drawn up. I gave your mother a very generous settlement and even let her stay in the house. It'll go to you when she can't live there anymore and then to my brother Ben's kids. They exchanged looks. I even had a final conversation with your mother before I left, I added. She told me why she did what she did. She left me with no choice but to go. I don't understand, Kate said. Why the hell would she cheat on you? She must be crazy. She said I was boring in bed, I replied. Miranda erupted in laughter. I never said that, Maddie protested. I only meant we'd done it so many times I knew all your moves. It wasn't my fault. I was just wanted to try anything that came to mind. I didn't realize until you were gone that I had a medical issue. My hormones went wild and turned me into some kind of temporary nympho. But it was still easier for you to cheat on me than to explain what was going on with you, right? I shot back. Just like it was easier for you to let the kids think I ran off instead of telling them the truth. Ken, I love you so much. What was I supposed to do? My life and my marriage were destroyed for nothing. It was just act. After 40 years together, you should have been willing to... I'm cured now. I haven't been with another man in years. I want you to come home. I don't care if you help Dylan or not. I just want my marriage back, Maddie whined. He is home, Grandma, Miranda snapped. You had your chance and you blew it. Get out of my house. He's not going anywhere. Who the hell is Dylan? Dylan is my son, Kate said quietly. He has cancer. The doctors are trying a lot of treatments. They want to attempt radiation therapy, chemotherapy, and nuclear medicine. The cancer is genetic. The only guaranteed cure is a bone marrow transplant from someone in the family who has the right antibodies to fight it. That's tough, Miranda said. What do you want from us? Dad is the one with the antibodies. He saved his brother's life. He can help. Absolutely not, Miranda shot back. He's nearly 70. Who knows what that would do to him? We're having a baby, and I want my child's father to be alive and healthy when she arrives. Kate and Matt looked stunned, while Maddie's expression turned icy. Dad, why won't you help your grandson? Kate demanded. And you, Miranda, he's your nephew. He's family. Screw family, Miranda spat. The only family that matters is Ken and our baby. I get why you feel that way, Miranda, Kate replied. But Dad, besides Mom, what did any of us ever do to you? Katie, I love you, sweetheart, I said. But ever since I saw him again, Matt has been giving me dirty looks because of his jealousy and the lies his mother fed him. He didn't even give me a fair chance. But Matt isn't Dylan, Kate argued. What has my son ever— Katie, I told you there were two guys with your mother-in-law when I caught her. I started. Yeah, but— she interrupted. Suddenly her eyes widened as the truth hit her. She turned on Maddie. You filthy witch, she screamed. You ruined my baby. Katie, Maddie whined. He blackmailed me into it. If I hadn't gone along, he was going to spill the beans to your dad. And believe it or not, I care too much about Ken to let him find out. I was desperate. I had no choice. And Dylan is over 21. He's not a baby to anyone but you. And as for you, Ken, you can forget about marrying this girl. The second you step into a church with her, I'll have you arrested for bigamy. Legally, you did abandon me, Maddie said with a smirk. No, I didn't, I shouted. And you know that. You left me with plenty of money, she said, grinning. And you filed the papers. But in our state, those papers have to be signed and submitted. I never turned them in, and I didn't sign them. When your lawyer called to check on the status, I told him we'd changed our minds. You really should have left that poor guy some way to contact you before you took off to find a younger version of your daughter-in-law. Things escalated quickly after that. Miranda screamed and lunged at Maddie. I saw her move, but reacted too slowly. Miranda managed to land a punch that nearly knocked Maddie out of her chair. Maddie toppled backward, and Matt jumped up to protect his mother. Kate stepped in front of Miranda, who was yelling for me to let her go. Matt looked up at a furious Kate. Kate, honey, I still love you, he said. And I realize now you were right about everything. I should have listened to you, and my dad didn't do anything wrong, but I can't let that woman hurt my mother, even if Mom is being unreasonable. Matt, I love you too, but this isn't about us. It's not about your mother either. It's about getting Dad to help my baby, and your mom is ruining this for everyone. I don't care if we don't get married, Miranda spat, struggling against me. We've been fine up until now. Our life was perfect until they showed up. Our baby will be raised by two loving parents. I want all of these people out of my house now. You heard her, I said. Kate and Matt helped a dazed Maddie out of my house. I spent the rest of the evening comforting Miranda and reassuring her that everything would be all right. Epilogue. This is usually where everything gets tied up neatly, but life doesn't work that way. When I went back to Michigan to finalize my divorce, I discovered it wouldn't be easy. Despite Maddie's lies about our previous divorce, the process would take over a year, especially with Maddie fighting it. She signed an affidavit claiming we had a family gathering recently, which complicated things. I also visited Dylan, but he was the same spoiled, selfish person he'd always been, sitting in a filthy apartment paid for by Kate. He assumed I was there to give him bone marrow, showing no remorse for his role in destroying my marriage. I couldn't bring myself to help him. Kate and Matt, who had reconciled, tried to convince me to save Dylan, but I couldn't do it. When I looked at Dylan, I saw the betrayal that had nearly ruined my life, and he had never even apologized. Though Kate and Matt were upset, they couldn't force me to help. Dylan's health deteriorated from his treatments, but it wasn't cancer that killed him. He passed away from a virus on the same day my daughter Danica was born, his immune system too weakened to fight it off. We attended his funeral mostly for Kate. Miranda stayed by my side the entire time, preventing Maddie from trying to speak to me. The funeral was sparsely attended. Dylan hadn't made many friends. Despite everything, I felt sad, but only for the little boy Dylan once was, not the man he never became. It became clear that, aside from Miranda, who was firmly against it, and Maddie, who didn't seem to care, everyone else seemed to believe I could have prevented Dylan's death. I didn't bother reminding them that my brother, who took great care of himself, had also eventually passed. Dylan had continued smoking and drinking heavily in the weeks before his death. His funeral was the last time we were all together. Kate fell into a deep depression and cut off contact with everyone, including Matt, after realizing during their short reconciliation that he hadn't changed. With Maddie refusing to allow the divorce to move forward, I talked to Miranda, reassuring her that the legal status didn't matter. Wearing my ring made us married in my eyes. Then I focused on Maddie, pleading with her to let the divorce proceed. She refused and even made inappropriate offers in front of Miranda and our lawyers, which only served to infuriate me further. I had no choice but to drop the divorce, which allowed me to avoid the terms of our settlement. Maddie hadn't worked during our marriage, so all the money she had was mine. I still had access to the accounts, so I withdrew everything, leaving her penniless. After removing her from my retirement account, she received one last check. Though it seemed harsh, I enjoyed the power it gave me. Maddie showed up at my house causing a scene, so I had her arrested. I took another step, one that felt even more drastic. I sold the house that had been in my family for generations, leaving her homeless. It was time to stop looking back and start focusing on my future with Miranda and our daughter, Danica. Now, 5 years later, I sit on my porch watching Danica, who's 5, doing laps around the driveway in her modified Power Wheels Mustang. She's already hosting little races every Sunday and hasn't lost yet, not even to the boys. I'm sure Miranda will object, but I think Danica's ready for a go-kart. She's inherited her mother's looks and my competitive streak. Those NASCAR boys will have some competition in about 14 years, and I hope I'll still be around to witness it.